Okay, so good morning and welcome to this morning's webinar session. The purpose of today is we're going to take you through the new product, ERGON. I'll just take you through some of the features of this product. So what is ERGON? It's a new web-based tool from IES, and it allows you to sort of import, manage and interrogate building data. By building data, we're talking about data which is typically come from an operational site. So unlike the traditional virtual environment workflow where you're probably looking at buildings before they're built, the real sort of purpose of ERGON is to deal with buildings which are already built, which are giving you data, maybe from a BMS system, maybe from automatic meter reading technology, smart meters and whatnot, and it allows you to collect all that data and bring it back into the virtual environment software, where you can do sort of detailed design using more accurate data. So we'll introduce a new concept, that concept's Freeform profiles. These sit within Apache Profiles Database Manager, AP Pro. We'll let you see that. The FFDs can deal with time steps down to from 60 minutes, 1 hour intervals, down to 1 minute if needs be. You can synchronize that with your Apache simulation time step, so maybe typically 10 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. But yeah, if you do have 1 minute interval data from a data source on site, then we can import that. Probably looking there at maybe like a SCADA system on a manufacturing facility, which might give you that 1 minute sort of frequency data, whereas traditionally your typical building management system is probably going to be working maybe more in the 15-minute resolution. So what you can do is use that meter data to essentially enhance the quality of your model. If you're looking at calibration activities, in turn that hopefully leads towards closing the performance gap and bringing your design models much closer to reality. So that's a quick overview of ERGON as a product. Just a final note there is to say it's powered by SCAN technology, and SCAN's developing through IES research and development team. This is the first product which is really going to launch on the back of the SCAN technology. Okay, so where to use ERGON? The impact of retrofit options. So if you're looking at an existing facility, you're looking at refurbishing HVAC, maybe looking at some facade renovation, any sort of renovation work, it's maybe useful to sort of use the operational data that building's already capable of giving. Maybe do some data logging for a month or two, and then use that data which has been collected to essentially, sort of enhance the modelling to give you the best value. Continuing on, once you then maybe installed the new technology, if it's an HVAC retrofit, you go ahead, your contractor installs the new HVAC system. So ERGON very much has a place within sort of commissioning and post-occupancy evaluation activities. So you can then use the data which is then collected from the new HVAC installation to do some comparison, back to the design prediction. If you're not looking at retrofit as such, another aspect would be in and around the performance contracting side of things. So you're looking at energy service contracts, maybe where ESCOs are looking at spending some money, investing some money into a building, looking to maybe get some payback over 7 to 10 years. If that's the case, then clearly ERGON has a place to support the sort of enabling work done by the ESCO to maybe look at eliminating risk, make sure that they're investing money in the right area in terms of the any sort of technology which they then go ahead and install. Soft landing's been talked about at the moment by the BRE. You've probably heard a lot in this space. Other side of the Atlantic, maybe measurement and verification, which is very big in the LEED framework. So maybe looking at IPM VP. I think with version 3 of LEED 2009, certainly M&V is pretty well described. I think moving forward, LEED version 4 is due to sort of be launched by the US GBC in 2015, and there's a bit of a shift where they're starting to move a bit more towards monitoring based commissioning. So again, another aspect of where you could use Ergon. Southern Hemisphere down in Australia, I guess, building tuning for Green Star. So again, similar sort of crossover with monitoring based commissioning M&V, but yeah, certainly it can support the building tuning process. And as we said on the previous slide, it's very much around trying to close the performance gap, really by simulating your designs closer to reality. So here's a quick overview of the sort of Ergon workflow. So we're showing a BMS system here. That could be automatic beta reading technology as well. So you take in your data, we put it through to Ergon, which is an IES cloud product. Ergon in turn generates what's known as an FFD file, a Freeform data file. That's imported into Apache Profiles database, AP Pro, as it's known for short within the VE. That lets you then sort of drive an Apache simulation, and in turn takes you into Vista or Vista Pro, and that then lets you have your meter data directly within the Vista suite. Yeah, so bullet points really just cover the bulk of the imagery at the top. So I think at this point we have a pre-recorded demo video which we can jump onto now and take you through some of the concepts. Okay, so we're starting off here within the Vista product. So far this model hasn't been put through Ergon. So what we want to try and illustrate here today is how you can take a virtual environment model that's maybe a design stage model, and then how we can go to the Ergon product, generate some freeform data files, take that back out and put it back into this model, resimulate and effectively move the design inputs closer to reality by maybe putting more accurate data to drive the simulation. What you see, we're looking at number of people is what we've chosen to illustrate. You can see typically here we have a Monday to Friday pattern, Saturday to Sunday unoccupied, and then we're back again on the Monday. Very typical of office profile. Okay, so what I want to do is go into Apache and up in AP Pro. You can see now the new feature which we're talking about, and that's known as Freeform Profiles. If we come in here, we can generate a new Freeform profile, but what you'll find is when we click on the import button, what's happening here is the software is now looking for an FFD file, and obviously in this case we haven't created this Freeform data file yet, and that's really the job of Ergon. Okay, so it's not found in the project folder. We need to go away and make the data file. So at this point we jump into Microsoft Excel, and what you can see now is a single channel. We call this one occupancy count. It's running from the 1st of January 2014, midnight, and then you can see that the frequency of data logging as every 10 minutes, all the way down to the end of the year. The channel itself is looking at occupancy, so some form of people counter, let's imagine, and you see now that the data values begin to kick in around 8 o'clock in the morning. We start to have a percentage occupancy. Throughout the year, that fluctuates very dynamically over the 10-minute interval range. Okay, so if you go onto ergon.iesbe.com, it'll take you onto the splash screen. It describes a wee bit on the product. More importantly, it's giving you some instructions on how to activate your Ergon key. So Ergon on the web, we can get you set up with through a user account. If you go onto the link, you can create up an account. But there is a sort of back-end piece in the VE which needs to be done, so you will need to follow the instructions, email keys@iesbe.com, and you can request the Ergon key to be activated, and that will make the Freeform profile drop-down appear within your AP Pro interface. Okay, so we'll move on into my own account. So we go in here, log in, register. That takes you into a page. We can then come in and create a new building. We'll call this one just Ergon Demo. Save changes. You'll see here the sample period is set to 10 minutes. So what we're trying to do now is synchronise the Ergon tool with the frequency of data which we were looking at within the spreadsheet. It does support both units, metric and imperial, and we move on to the data drop down, and we're going to new data import, so create data import at the bottom. So we come in here, there's two types of format, both CSV, comma separated value. We can have row per timestamp and column per channel, or as another format which is row per point. Slightly different formats. We'll probably cover these in some form of maybe training documentation or user manual, but for now the data stream that you saw in Excel we want to go with, which is the row per timestamp. So we click on that, we come in to select the data file itself. So there we have occupancy data, .text or .csv, save changes, and what that will do is take us into a sort of temporary holding area. You can see at the bottom left the percentage upload bar is ticking away. Depending on the size of your files, that might take a wee bit longer. So it takes us on to this page, and you'll have seen the header tab where we had the timestamp occupancy count. We then click on the column button, and you should see this. If you don't see this, then you have an issue. So automatically it's recognised the date format. In this case it's the 1st of January 2014, and then we have the time on the 24-hour clock. And if that's been set up correctly, then you should see that in blue, which is telling us that it's been bound to timestamp. So Ergon has automatically recognised that as a timestamp column. It hasn't found this other one yet, so it's telling us in orange that it's not found the channel. So we need to now go through and sort of make a channel so that we can bind the data that we're trying to bring into a channel. So to do that, we just click anywhere on the orange column, and that will bring up a dialog, and you can say create channel. If you want to change the name of the channel, you can, but all we want to do is go ahead and say save the current name. And what that's done is it's created now a channel which sits up here in the sort of data drop down. It's created a channel in the Ergon tool, and it's now bound the CSV data to that channel, and it's now jumped from being orange in colour to being green, which is what we want. We then jump on to import, and you must click on the green import button. If you don't do that, then it won't actually take the data through. Then go to data channels, and you should now see that it's created a channel within the ERGON product, which is called occupancy count. And this is where we now get some settings that we can set up to essentially drive the export options, amongst other things. You see it's recognised the max min value as being 0 to 1. For management, we can give it units. In this case, it's just a number. We tell it we want to export this as a freeform profile, or freeform data file, and we want it to be a modulating value. If it was air temperature or maybe CO2 or something, we could maybe use the absolute value, but clearly this is linking to the two types of profile within the VE. So in this case it's modulating. There's an interpolate option button as well, which would try and fill in, so there's nothing to stop you, I guess, maybe bringing in half-hourly data or 15-minute data from a data source, and actually then setting your frequency within the ERGON tool lower. So you could set ERGON to be 6 minutes to synchronise that with your Apache Sim time step, but your data that you used to sort of populate the channel could have been on a higher resolution, 15 minutes or half an hour. If that's the case, then ERGON would try and interpolate, and it will create like a 6-minute version of your half-hourly data, your 15-minute data. So the interpolate features can be quite useful. Interpolate can also fill in some blanks. If you start to have gaps in the data, then the interpolate can do that. It won't fill in big gaps, but it's typically looking at filling in an hour or two's data if you don't have it. Okay, so we come on to plot, which is a wee bit like Vista. We've created some tools that allow you to really just give your data a sanity check, I guess, make sure that what you want your profile to look like for your VE simulation. We're allowing you to look at that before you actually go ahead and create the profile. As you can see, it's the calendar at the bottom can be toggled on and off using this button. The colour scheme on the mosaic, I guess, the grid. Green is just telling us that we have 100% data. Might not always be the case. You probably find if you're looking at BMS systems in particular that the data yield can be quite patchy, just due to maybe communication comms issues on site, whereas your metering infrastructure maybe tends to be more robust. So if you're looking at main utility meters, chances are your utility company will have a good system in place, because that's what they're using for automatic billing. But the BMS certainly a bit more patchy. So you can jump through here month by month. You can look at the data pattern. We can look at a day. We can look at a few days. We can click and drag, and you can select maybe a week. All we're trying to illustrate here is that the shape of this data is changing every single day, so it's not consistent to 9 to 5. Some automatic buttons just to set the default range: year, month, week, day. There's also a table view, so if you click on the jump to table, you can also access this from the data drop down, data table. This should take us on to the sort of tabular view of the data. And you can see two columns within here. You've got a metered column, and then we have the interpolated column. At this point they're both set on 10 minutes, but like I said, if you had data on half hour or 15 minutes on your metered column, and then you had your ERGON set to be 6 minutes, then what you would see is there'd be white space with the M column, and the interpolated column would be showing some red text, which would essentially be interpolating the missing points. So that's worth a look at. So that just again lets you check the quality of the data. If we scroll down, you can start to see now that maybe 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, we've got maybe 50% occupancy, and that begins to sort of tail off. So by 8 o'clock, half 8 at night, the occupancy's dropped back to maybe 10, 6, 3, 2%. So by the time it's half 9, your office in this case is completely unoccupied. That's very different from maybe the 9 to 5 assumption by default. Okay, so we're going to come on to the export options now. So we go into data drop down and we go into VE export. We want to create a new data export, and you'll see now that the data range we have to set. So we can go from the 1st of January, we just click and drag, and we can take it to the 31st of December. At the bottom we only have one data channel, and you can see that it's telling us occupancy count. This almost just summarises the settings that you've already put in. It's a bit like a tab edit grid within the VE, where you can make changes to multiple channels, just in this page. So it's telling us we want to take the occupancy count channel. We do want to export that as a freeform data file. It's a modulating profile. We don't want to do any form of interpolation, and it's telling us the max min value 0 to 1. Tell us down at the bottom that it will cost 1 credit on the account to do so. So to proceed we have to tick on the confirm transaction, and we can then press export. And what that will now do is take us back to the summary view. Okay, so you should see this. It will tell you at the top it's exported the channel, and then you should see this appear, which is a summary of your download. It tells you when you created it, and you see it's telling you within the zip file. So if you click on this, it will download a .zip file. It's telling you there's a CSV summary file in there, and there's also your FFD file. Okay, so what we need to do is take this zip file, and we want to bring that back into the project folder. So this model, within this Apache folder, we want to put the data file. So what we do is we paste the zip file that we download into essentially the root directory of the model. So not within the Apache folder. That's handled automatically when you extract. So we paste the zip file straight into the root directory. Right click, automatically extract the zip file, and that should put the freeform data file straight into the Apache subfolder. We can check that by going into Apache, and at the bottom you should see the FFD file appear, and it's called occupancy count. It just gives us a summary here of 0 to 1 as your max min. You can change the name of this file if you want to at this point. There's nothing to stop you doing that. Okay, so what we'll now do is jump back into the VE, which is where we started. We now want to go to import this time. Go into the Apache folder. The difference now is that we should now see an FFD file, which we can choose. So when we click on open, you should see it loading in this data, and what that will now do is populate the freeform profile grid with the data file. Now you can see your 10-minute frequency data in a bit more detail. You know, we've got maybe 5, 6 decimal places here. You notice the time format's a bit different, where the way that Apache Sim reads this is it needs to have the date format in month, day, hour, minute. And really that's a key feature of ERGON, is the fact that it's really designed as a sort of pre-processing tool to take data, to process it, to really make it fit exactly in the way that Apache needs. So yeah, potentially you could copy paste onto this, but what we've done is we've eliminated that as a feature just due to the sort of volume of data. So if you're looking at 8760, that's maybe okay, not too much of a demand on memory or RAM, but whereas if you're looking at 1 minute data, you've got your 8760 data set multiplied again by 60. So it's quite quick. You can end up with 500,000 data points per channel if you're looking at quite low resolution. So what we've done is really to bypass any sort of RAM issues, also to bypass any inaccuracy in the paste. You might paste it in the wrong column. You might have gaps in data that aren't obvious. So what Ergon's trying to do is really look for gaps, fill in the gaps, really make sure that the data goes through quite a robust quality check, sanity check on the data, just to make sure it's okay before bringing it into the AP Pro dialog. Okay, so that should be us at that point. We can now just save this profile. Before we save it, we'll give it a name. So in this case, we'll just override the profile name at the top, and we shall call it Freeform Occupancy Schedule. So we hit save, and you see it'll update the profile, and this will now appear on your drop down within Freeform profiles. Once it's done that though, it means it should now appear as a standard profile in anywhere in the VE. So if we come on to look at the occupancy now within Building Template Manager, under the Internal Gains tab, what we can do is now click on Freeform Occupancy Schedule, which is a Freeform profile. Basic occupancy schedule is just your typical weekly profile, so really there's no difference at this point. It's just the difference is how Apache Sim handles the processing of that data file. So what we'll do is we'll change this from basic to Freeform. We'll press OK to that. We'll just check it works on our office under people. We should now see that we've changed the variation profile from basic occupancy to Freeform occupancy. Okay, so what we can now do is run a second simulation scenario, and we'll call this one Freeform Occupancy, and we'll just go ahead and simulate. Okay, so once this is done, it will take us into Vista Pro, and we'll have two simulation results files, one using the basic occupancy pattern, one using the Freeform occupancy pattern. We'll go to number of people. That's what we had to begin with. If we hold down Control, we can then overlay the Freeform result. The colours are both red. I'll just make a quick change to the Freeform, make it green, just to make it a bit easier to see. And what you can now see is what the Freeform profile has done. So it's really now every day, every 10 minutes has a very different shape. So that's us looking at a month of occupancy for February. If we jump through to maybe March, again you're seeing that different into April, May. Time we get to summertime, you're starting to see much higher peaks. Not a real data source. This is a fictional source, just really to illustrate the concept. That's why it would be quite high occupancy on a Saturday and a Sunday. But you can, hopefully you'll understand the concept here, that you could have weekend occupancy happening in your office building that might not be getting picked up on your standard Monday to Friday sort of profile. Different uses for this. This is occupancy, but you could be looking at air temperature, CO2. We could be looking at blind control. We could use a series of 1-0 values to control maybe when a blind's up or down, and whatnot. Okay, so I think that the main aspect to really put forth now is trying to show you what difference the profiles had on the results. So if we look at the people gain, and let's select the whole year, what we can now do is your monthly total button, or even in a bar chart, we can now see that clearly that one profile changes to the big difference on other aspects of the model. If we look at heating plant, then you'll be able to see that we overlay the two sets of results, and there'll be a difference on heating load, likewise with cooling. So I guess what's happened there is the freeform profile assumes a lot less people are in the space. In turn, that means that the zone heating has to work harder to make up for that excess heat. What we're seeing in the summer months is the opposite. The simulation model with the basic profile assumed a lot more people than actually were in the space by default. When we run the freeform, there's less people in the space, therefore the cooling system's having to work a bit less. And we can use the monthly totals, obviously, to just put some values against that. So that's the cooling side. If we look at the heating side, you can see that the heating's maybe working 10% harder. This is just one zone. Clearly that could be on a bigger scale, on a bigger model, or if you're using multiple freeform profiles to drive different aspects of the building. Okay, so that's really the summary of the VE workflow. Just jump back onto the slide deck. Okay, so one more aspect we've not talked about is there's a feature which has been created within ERGON, which allows you to create like an annual profile. So without having to import any data to ERGON, ERGON will actually allow you to create an annual profile from a feature which is called a sort of clock and a calendar. We can explain this in a bit more detail down the line. It's very much like annual profiles in AP Pro, but there's like additional interface on that. So what you can do at the bottom, you get to choose from maybe 10 different daily profiles. You can input your values to control the shape of each day. So that's like a 9 to 5 on off. There's a maybe 8 to 4 stepped profile, and this one's maybe 50% occupied continuous. What you then do is you use the colour swab for each of the profiles, and you sort of click on what pattern you want that to be. So this one's telling us that this one down here is on every Sunday. The yellow one with the step is on every Saturday, and then we have the green, which is typically our Monday to Friday. And then what we can do is use the random days, to stick on holidays. You see the sort of Christmas holidays in this case. Some other areas where this can be used, I mentioned some of these already, but clearly internal gains within Apache. Maybe set points we can use to be more dynamic. Maybe represent the way users are actually jacking set points up and down to compensate for the HVAC system. Occupancy schedules we've looked at within Apache CDB. Solar control blinds could be a big one, looking at north, south, east, west facades. Even looking at maybe northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest facades, breaking it into additional orientations. So you can do quite complex blind control using the freeform profile functionality. What's the scope within Apache HVAC module? Again, looking at control profiles, again set points on systems. It's got uses, I guess, in and around macroflow module, looking at wind speed, wind direction, trying to maybe put some profiles controlling natural ventilation, which use the freeform functionality. This is an example in the sort of compliance area, I guess. So this is in the UK. This would be the national calculation methodology, the NCM. Maybe in the States you're looking at ASRI. Australia, again, maybe Green Star. type profile. So with the NCM, there's a typical profile which ships with the NCM, and that's, in this case, it's a food preparation equipment profile, and that's the blue line. What we then have in the red line is actually metered data, which was taken from a supermarket, and it was a submeter which was serving an oven. And so what we're now looking at with the red line is the real sort of consumption of an oven equipment profile taken from site against the sort of fictional, the NCM. And clearly you can see big differences. It's maybe firing a lot earlier in the morning to its peak. It's gone off a lot sooner. But there's more dynamic patterns. You can see here that Monday to Tuesday it didn't completely go off overnight. Tuesday it's kicked on again, but a lower peak. And if you look at the blue line, it's very rigid, very repetitive. And if you use that, you'll end up with big errors in your, I guess, the quality of your model. Okay, so final summary slide. IES-ERGON, it's a new cloud solution, which is charged on a credit system. You can manage your account, you can get yourself set up with some credits, just through your standard IES-V profile. We talk about some of the sort of charging bundles here, so you can look at 10 credits, 55 credits, 120. There's various costs associated with that. We're giving away sort of 20 credits till the end of the year for all accounts, so it's a good time to email ergon@iesv.com. Just request your free trial. That will get you set up with an account with 20 credits, and really give it a try. When you download a Freeform data file, it will take away one credit from your account. There's a small charge, 0.01 of a credit when you upload a data channel to the Ergon tool. That means you might want to upload like lots of data, 20, 30 air temperature sensors, but you might only want to download maybe one or two from that to actually drive your simulation. Okay, so that's really today's summary of the Ergon product. Drop us an email at this Ergon account if you have any questions. Thank you.